I'm Dr. Hillary Fredrickson from Cultivate Fertility. I'm one of the founders with my dearest friend, Dr. Kara Burkhart. I'm in California. She's in Connecticut. Unfortunately, we're not together right now because of COVID, and that's how it is. So we do these from on Zoom this way, where we're two kind of talking heads. And anyone who does a lot of stuff here at Cultivate Fertility gets to know us, gets to know that we sometimes interrupt each other. That's just sort of our flow. We're totally fine with it. Hopefully it doesn't make you uncomfortable. But we both just get like so excited, and we both sort of need to make our points. But anyway, we're both natural fertility specialists. We both have our own practices. We've been practicing for over, I don't know, 20 years. We've been doing patient care each. We went to naturopathic medical school together and both studied Chinese medicine together. And so we've been working together for years and years. And we put this idea together about 5 years ago, and we're bringing it out to you guys now, just trying to educate women about natural fertility and all the amazing benefits there are to taking care of you and your body along your fertility journey into your pregnancy and as you raise a beautiful family. So that's my introduction. How about you, Kara? Hi.
I'm Dr. Kara, and both of us had our individual infertility struggles. And so during that, we both in our own way, and this was a long time ago, had to figure out sort of how our menstrual cycles work. And that's kind of what our talk is today about, because it's really a different way of thinking of your body and trying to figure out when's the best time to get pregnant and all of that. So ovulation has become a topic that we spend a lot of time explaining to our patients and answering questions about at Cultivate Fertility. So this topic is probably a really good one for most people trying to get pregnant. So if you have specific questions about, you know, cervical mucus, ovulation predictor kits, length of cycle, anything like that, just type it in the box. We'll try and kind of weave it into the discussion tonight, because of course we can go off on any kind of tangent, as we often do. So just let us know which tangent you want.
I just want to say somebody popped in, Olga. There's Olga here from Maryland, and we're so excited that you're here working on her getting pregnant with her second child. So, and a lot of us know that in our practices that sometimes women who are getting ready for their second babies or third babies need some pregnancy preparation, because you've been mothering and you're tired and you've gone through a lot. So I'm so excited that you're here.
Yeah. And I was reading through the comments there too, and wanted to bring that up too, because a lot of the women that we end up working with are having baby number 2 or 3, very rarely baby 4, but that happens sometimes. And I think there's just a cost to each pregnancy and having newborns and all of the kind of stuff that we do as mothers. And there's a lot of working mothers. And so I think it's especially important to do the preconception care in your second and third and subsequent pregnancies. And so that's a great thing that we like to work on. So I'm going to pop into our slideshow here.
Yeah, so we're talking about ovulation today. Dr. Kara and I have just launched a new ovulation course, and we want to give you, share some of our slides. It's a much more thorough course, obviously, but we wanted to kind of walk you through some of our slides and get you thinking about the way that we think about ovulation and all the different factors that influence ovulation and obviously conception. So there's
a lot to it. And so I pulled just a few slides for you all tonight. And this is a bit of a leap of faith, because I was on with Hillary sharing screen to a bunch of people, and my screen just went completely black and my computer was like overheated. So we're just going to pray that this works, and hopefully it will. So bear with me if there are any issues. I can't believe Hillary's letting me do this.
Because she's the technical one, which is actually quite funny because
that's saying a lot. So the point of ovulation and why you're trying to find out when it is that this tends to be where the errors happen. And it gets hard when one or both of the partners are traveling and things like that. So incorrectly timing sex is one of the most common reasons why people fail to get pregnant, is what we find. And knowing when you ovulate can help you, because then you can figure out this sort of time during the month that you're most likely to get pregnant.
And this is can you go back?
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple minutes on this image. This image was created with a lot of conversation that we have about ovulation. So it represents an ovary, a beautiful sort of almond-shaped ovary with a lot of different follicles within. And every month, one beautiful egg gets developed and grows and bursts out of the cell like this beautiful sort of explosion. And we love this image because although there's a lot of science, and we're about to kind of go into some of the science, it's obviously important to know. I love this image because it shows that there's also a lot of sort of magic and beauty and sort of mystery also that the body goes through. Dr. Kara was explaining in another meeting that we were in, that it's like such this mystery that the ovary kind of releases an egg, and then that a fallopian tube like goes to grab the egg. And can you tell your story about your patient? About
right. So, yeah. And so the ovaries are these tiny, tiny things. They are the shape of the almond, and they're as big as an almond. So you have two of them, lower abdomen, either side. And they're right close to the two fallopian tubes that come off of your uterus. And where conception happens, where sort of the sperm meets the egg, that thing we've all seen films of, that happens mostly in the fallopian tube, and then it travels down and proceeds to implant in the uterus. Or the womb, if you want to call it the womb. So I have a patient, and she's absolutely incredible, but she actually doesn't have one of her fallopian tubes, and she also doesn't have the ovary on that side. So she has this situation where the egg had to come from the opposite side of the body, and the fallopian tube had to sort of grab it across her body, and she got pregnant. And so that's like an amazing thing. So I guess your body's really sort of set up for this thing. So I always thought that was incredible.
It's an amazing mystery, this whole thing. Like the fact that anybody gets pregnant, if you look at everything that needs to happen, it's a miracle. And we want to just recognize that the way that we structure our programs is we really want you to understand the science, and we're scouring the research all the time, and using our clinical practices to kind of make these programs, but also that we want to, just celebrate kind of the mystery of it. Anyway, so.
Well, as with every problem with infertility or trying to boost your fertility, there's so many details, and it's so incredibly complex that, if something goes wrong, we automatically blame ourselves for this easy thing of like, I exercised too much, or I lifted the grocery bag that was too big, or I was moving for, or whatever it is. We try and blame ourselves, but there's so many pieces in it that it's really hard to ever figure it out, which is why the vast majority of infertility diagnosis has no reason for it. We don't know why. So what we try and do is address all of it. And so we do have to get into sort of understanding everything your body's trying to do, with the caveat that we actually don't really understand everything anyway.
Right. So this is one of my favorite exercises to do with my patients, because both Kara and I laugh that, a lot of women haven't seen this chart since like sex ed, when they were learning about how not to get pregnant. And it's really fun to go through with our patients and teach them again how to use just what's happening hormonally. And I think the more women really know and own the information, then it's just an easier process for them. So we're just going to kind of walk you through this, and forgive us if we have a tendency to kind of talk a little fast through the science, and we don't mean to lose you, but you can always find out more when you do our programs and kind of follow us and learn a little bit more. You'll see if we're going too fast for you in this moment. But this represents kind of everything that's happening in a menstrual cycle. So you can see at the bottom, there's day 1, and it marches out to day 28. Day 1 is always considered the first day of your period. So menstrual cycles start to get counted on day 1. And we really do this with our patients and our clients because we want our women to be tracking their cycles and understanding their bodies, understanding fluctuation and variation. There's so much variation in a woman's cycle. And so the more you know, and the more you know about your cycle, the easier understanding your fertility is. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay.
I hear you. I see you want to get in there.
I was listening. And I think that we have this sort of general concept about this is somewhat about estrogen and progesterone, but what you're really looking for when you're trying to think about ovulation is that LH, that right in the middle of the top part, where it's yellow, that narrow spike up, that's your LH surge. And that's what most people are looking to find out, whether it's via a digital application or whether you're going to be doing a urine test. It's the LH surge that you're looking for, and then you ovulate right after it. So in the middle part of this, the graph on the right, that's showing follicular development. That follicular just means baby eggs. They're just baby eggs. So they're going to turn into an egg. And you'll see in the very middle of it that there's one little dot coming out of a big circle. That's the egg being released. So that's actually the ovulation. And then to the right of it, there's these like blobby things that, I don't know, look like a beanbag gone wrong or something on the right. That's actually what's left from the ovulatory process in your ovary. And those things make your progesterone. So above it is that pink curve, and that's your progesterone. So during the second half of your cycle, people say it's day 14 to day 28, although that's very rarely the exact days, but the second half of your cycle is dominated by progesterone, and the progesterone comes from that ovary that released the egg. So after the egg's released, the ovary makes progesterone. So I think that's really the important pieces from.
And the estrogen, sorry, so to
just go back to the beginning.
So the blue in the very beginning, when you look at the early days of the cycle, so you can see day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the hormones are quite low. And it's interesting because when a woman's on her bleeding on her menses, like a lot of women feel all this tension before, sometimes emotional variation, like, you know, just like angry, irritated, sometimes like PMS, breast tenderness or whatever. And that's because there's a lot of different hormones happening at the end of the cycle, all that progesterone, everything's kind of the highest. And then you can see during the bleeding days, there's not much going on. And that's when often women are just doing, you know, it's kind of calm. And then this estrogen starts to rise. So what we're looking for our patients and clients is we really want to have a very nice, strong, robust estrogen level, so that the estrogen rising is what spikes, is what stimulates that LH surge. And the LH surge,
the blue rising makes the yellow go up.
And the blue, as it rises, triggers that LH surge. So this is why we call this a female hormone symphony. There are so many different factors at play. We need to have great estrogen production so that we get a really strong LH surge. And that is what gets a lovely timed follicle release, boom, and then a great rise in progesterone. Like it all needs to be in harmony and playing beautifully together like a symphony. And we, so on paper, it's our fertility stories are interesting because they come into play here. Like for me, I never ever in a cycle in my life pre-children had anything like this. I had PCOS and pretty cystic, very cystic ovaries, and amenorrhea, so no cycle, and then a prolonged cycle. Those were sort of my issues that I was up against. And so I typically had, when I wanted to have a baby, my friends started to have babies and I was like, I'm gonna need to have one of those like now. And my husband at the traveled, and so I was in medical school, so I was very into like timing the situation, but I had a 60 something day cycle, and it was really so stressful for me. And I'm so old that there were no ovulation predictor kits back in the day. Like, we used to have to do a lot of different things to measure our cycle, which is one of the things we teach in the course, all the different tools of measuring your cycle and getting to learn your cycle. Because for me, it was so crucial that I learned my cycle. And I was ovulating somewhere in my day 40s, or, typically. And so had I not learned what was happening with my Symphony, and also did a lot of work, a pre-pregnancy detox, a lot of dietary changes, and using some herbs to get my cycle more predictable and more regular. Anyway, this was a really important piece of my fertility puzzle.
Yes. Whereas for me, I had really terrible fertility problems, 5 miscarriages, severe endometriosis. I had 2 surgeries. I had to have an ovary removed. I had a lot of things happen to me, all in this process of trying to get children, which is probably what sort of brought me here to this moment of trying to share this information. And my cycle, so perfect, always on time. After every miscarriage, it would come back like day 26, here's my cycle again. It's like incredible. I had a baby and I was so looking forward to that thing where I won't get a period while I'm nursing and it's going to be so great. 26 days later, got my period. I'm like, come on, how can this happen while you're nursing? I don't know. So I never, this thing is like clockwork for me. And so I really do know like all the signs of everything. I can sort of tell every little piece of my menstrual cycle is just the way it is. But I would definitely say that the vast majority of women I work with, and I work with women who struggle with fertility, that said, it's very rare to have like this perfect menstrual cycle. I'm kind of an anomaly, honestly. I really do think that's true.
We just had a question. Is it normal to only bleed for 3 days? Yeah, that can be normal. So what I'm gonna say about a short bleeding window is sometimes it can be totally normal and there's no issues. And sometimes it can be that there's not quite enough estrogen. So, or the Symphony is off a little bit. So what the estrogen is also doing is it's laying down the lining of your uterus to make a cozy home for the sperm and egg to land and to kind of start to get settled, and when you become pregnant. And so that you need like a really great endometrial lining. So sometimes if the period is very scanty, meaning there's not very much blood at all, and some women aren't feeling like they're ovulating, then it can be because they need more robust hormones. Sometimes that's women who are too thin or not eating enough fats, and that we really kind of need to like get them to kind of increase their fats. Hormones, the building block of these hormones, which we go into a lot in our Best Fertility Diet course, but these hormones, fats are the building blocks of them. So we want our women to be eating a lot of fats. Now, if a woman has like, it's always been kind of 3 days and that's just what it is, and it's a good amount of tissue and it comes and goes and it's not a big deal, then you're probably ovulating just fine. So,
I have to say that every time I hear that, and the Chinese medicine training is fix the menstrual cycle, that's the approach to fertility work. And for me, that really goes to a blood deficiency. 3 to 5 days is probably a better measure for menstrual bleed, but a lighter 3-day bleed is probably a sign that we need to work on the diet and nutrition. So that's usually where I go with that. And and it's sort of in the whole context of your menstrual cycle. But I think that's a little bit unusual and probably not optimal for getting pregnant from sort of the people I've worked with in my experience. So I think it's working on diet, like you were saying about the fats and some other specific nutrients.
And iron, we want women to have iron. Sometimes there's, so blood deficiency, we both studied Chinese medicine, and that's what's so fun about our Cultivate Fertility work. It's this blend of Western medicine and Chinese medicine and using herbal medicine and using nutrition. And the thing that really makes a huge difference is eating a very balanced diet with a lot of fat and tons of nutrient dense foods. So we go into
and eating a lot of fat, it needs a bigger explanation,
yes,
which is not in an ovulation course, but it's not just like, we're going to be chowing on ice cream. It's like good quality fat.
Not potato chip ice cream. No.
Another question, what if my menstrual cycle is short? So if you have a 23 or 24 day cycle, you certainly can get pregnant. But again, it's normal. We probably could do some work if you're like under the 24 days, that there's probably something to work on with this hormone symphony. So I mean, I would kind of say the guidelines, like a 24 to like 36 day, you don't want to be like over a 36-day cycle or something like that. But I think I definitely see normal pregnancies in that window. But especially if it's like long 1 month, short the next month, whatever. If it's like 24 days every cycle or like 33 days every cycle, I'm good with it. But beyond, gets a little bit like you have to do some herbs or something for the hormone symphony.
And the one point I was trying to say is when Kara and I both studied Chinese medicine, it was really funny. We were really kind of into diet and eating really well and making smoothies and eating a ton of vegetables and kale and all this stuff. And we went up to study, I always say we went up because we studied medicine on the second floor, Chinese medicine on the third floor. So we literally went upstairs where all of our professors were from China. And they looked at us like we were absolutely nutballs for drinking. We were in Seattle, it was cold, and for drinking smoothies,
mud
in the morning or whatever. And they were like, you women are all blood deficient. And we were like, what is blood deficiency? And in Chinese medicine, they just said so clearly, if you lose blood every month and you don't eat blood every month or get the nutrients that you need, then you just kind of don't have enough blood volume, and you're not going to have great cycles, and you're not going to be as fertile as you should be. And it really kind of has influenced our patient care and everything, but our program so dramatically. So you can get a lot more of that information in our diet program and our detox program. But for ovulation, let's go on.
Another question is about the signs, but the signs is coming up. So we're going to go down, and it's right here.
Oh, signs of ovulation. So I'm, Dr. Kara and I we're the best of friends, and we have really funny different personalities. I'm pretty obnoxious, and you'll find that I sort of make people uncomfortable sometimes with my desire to talk about sex and sexiness and feeling really great. And Kara keeps me kind of on track so that I don't like start dancing on the tables or something. But ovulation, a woman knows when she's ovulating because she feels sexy, because she feels like, I love this picture because the lady's butt is so cute and she's like, come on, baby. And it's when you like really feel your best. And that's why we advocate really getting to know your cycle and where you're at. But if you really pay attention to the subtle signs, like those are the days when like things are typically flowing pretty energetically well. Like you wake up pretty happy, your partner looks a little bit better than normal. You're just into life, like you're ready to do the thing.
Because your estrogen's at a high amount. So estrogen is one of these things that typically does make you feel pretty good. And if you talk to someone in menopause, they'll tell you about what happens when you don't have estrogen going. And so you're not feeling desirable, and maybe you're a little anxious or depressed or something like that if you don't have estrogen. But when you do and you have high estrogen around ovulation, these are the things you can get. That breast tenderness, that's one of those signs. The
Or not
increase,
even sometimes tenderness, but sometimes women get
they're
to
engorged,
other
right?
women feel like ooh la la.
Sometimes people's bra size actually goes up, which is really interesting. And so, and that's just estrogen. It's totally normal. Increased discharge. This is something, the cervical mucus becomes something that you sort of start to think about when you're trying to get pregnant and thinking about ovulation. And so you just get like a thicker, it's the typical egg white consistency is what people say. And that's when you know you're around that time that's going to be best to get pregnant. So people look for that sign.
We have a blog post. I just want to kind of pop in where you can find more information at cultivatefertility.com, which is our website. Under blogs, we have a blog post that we wrote about cervical mucus. And in the ovulation course, we talk about it a lot because it's something that you can influence and change. And it's a really important piece of the puzzle.
So I love this, the ovulation pain comment, because I think that once you start looking at this, and I talk to women a lot who we don't think about this when we're in high school, or, when we're in maybe our early 20s or before we're trying to get pregnant, which now we're older trying to get pregnant. But then all of a sudden we're like, I cannot believe, I can tell it's on the right side. I can tell it's on the left side. And that's a kind of amazing thing, because this is one tiny little cell, this egg. It's so, so small. And the fact that you can actually feel that pinch or tinge on one side, and you're like, could that be real? What is that? And so many women do.
But that's because they're feeling their magical burst.
I know, it's kind of amazing though,
It's
how many
energy.
people feel it.
Because it's tiny. If you can't even see it in the eye, I mean, you need an electron microscope really to see that.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. No, they're so tiny. It's like crazy. And so I find it amazing because and I definitely get this, and I know this, but I'm like an extra sensitive person. But the vast majority, I think, of people like tell me about this, and they're totally right, because a lot of people are doing fertility treatments and they go in and they're like, yeah, it's on the right side. It's about to like go, and I can feel it. I
said you need.
I can't believe you just had the ultrasound today and you can feel it. It's so cool.
It's so cool. I said you need an electron microscope, which is obviously dramatic because you can see it on ultrasound. But like, what's so cool is if you take a slice of that egg coming out of the ovary on electron microscope, we show it in the presentation. It's so cool because you see the ovary tissue, and then you see this egg is this massive thing coming out, and it's creating all this energy. It's awesome.
It's really, really cool.
So this is why we really want women to discover their own bodies so they know their own signs and symptoms, because sometimes if they're just doing an ovulation predictor kit, it's not easy to follow, or it's not helping them enough get pregnant. And sometimes knowing all the signs really help. Common misconceptions.
So this is just a few of the things that we thought we covered tonight with you, just because they come up a lot, like exercise. You think this whole concept, the egg and the sperm come together, and it's this kind of like tiny embryo thing that's kind of flying around, and you can like move it in the wrong place or whatever, but your body's not going to let that happen. So don't worry about your regular exercise routine. You are made to reproduce. If you stand up after intercourse, nothing's wrong with that. It's all totally fine. So there's no evidence to say that you're going to affect it by activity, movement. There's no evidence to say you put your feet up and all this stuff. None of that is real. But don't start like a crazy exercise routine when you're trying to get pregnant. Don't start something new. Just do what you usually do. Keep well hydrated. All that stuff works out really well.
Weight, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
The weight doesn't matter. I really, I had kind of mentioned before that any women that are underweight or women that are so lean can sometimes have a hard time because their their hormone levels are just lower than they should be. So we really kind of try to work with a woman's BMI, or just trying to be like they're at their set point, like the right weight for them. Most women sort of know the right weight for them. And also a real fertility, how am I trying to say it? It's a negative for your fertility is being overweight. Being quite overweight or obese does have a pretty significant effect on fertility and ovulation. And so
increased risk of miscarriage, preterm labor, all kinds of complications. So we definitely do that preconception work on a slow and steady kind of weight loss before getting pregnant is probably
right. So like if you're overweight, then it really makes sense to be on maybe doing the detox or a fertility diet for several months to try to kind of bring yourself back into a regular weight zone. Can be really helpful.
And then
there's nothing I can do.
There's so much you can do. We can tell you too many things to do. So you can actually do a lot in your life to try and regulate your menstrual cycle and fix anything that's going on. And if you're trying to get pregnant, you kind of want to do that just to cover all your bases. You just want to do everything you can and make good, just general healthy lifestyle choices. I think the point about ovulation, about women can't get pregnant when they're having their period, is a good one too, because we showed you the perfect cycle, which is not as common as you think. And so women can ovulate anytime. So don't assume that, if your partner's only with you day 5 of your cycle, that you can't get pregnant then, because there's all kinds of research studies where they're saying, you can see that you can get pregnant at any day of that cycle. So don't just say, okay, around day 14 is when I'm getting pregnant.
But the majority of women get pregnant during a fertile window. We talk about this a lot in the ovulation course, understanding your fertile window and using that fertile window to get pregnant. So this is part of the, there's nothing I can do. Like this is the part where we get so excited. And we created our first 2 courses were a diet and a detox course, because it is fundamentally crucial to be eating really well. Like it just has helped so many of our patients, helped us when you're on a great nutrient dense diet.
And I do want to say that the notes we get back from people are, I was doing this for my fertility and I was following your advice, but I have to say I feel so much better. I have so much more energy. My brain fog went away. I'm going to be eating this way forever from the Cultivate Fertility diet. So I think that that's taking a real look at your food and making it as good for you as possible. It's like you are what you eat. It kind of is like really basic. Like my grandmother used to say that is true. And we think that, we have access to so many foods. We eat really well. And I'm going to say that I work with women who eat really well, and I still find nutrient deficiencies across the board in their blood work. So we really like this slide because it's astounding. If you just take a clinic, in any city in the United States, grab the women, do their blood work, random sample of women, you're going to find nutrient deficiencies in more than you would expect. So even people who eat really great diets, we're deficient in a lot of things, and we are coming up with more and more of these things that we worry about in pregnancy and for your baby's development and all kinds of health outcomes later on for them. So really one of the main points that we like to make is try to eat the best quality food you can.
Yeah. And we go on ad nauseum in our diet courses, but it's awesome because when you see something like this, that women are iron deficient, an iron deficient woman has a much harder time getting pregnant. Same as a woman who has a folate deficiency or any B vitamin deficiency. Like these deficiencies, or this iodine insufficiency that we're looking at, it directly can impact your thyroid function, which hypothyroidism or suboptimal thyroid function is a big cause of some infertility issues. So
and miscarriages. And then for fetal development, iodine deficiency, you want your baby to be really smart and the brain needs it. And so it's kind of an issue. All of these were chosen because they're particularly important in preconception care. So there's a lot more nutrient deficiencies out there, but these ones are really, really important to be getting. And that was it.
That was our kind of ovulation in a quick webinar, but we have a lot more in the course. It's more thorough, and hopefully we'll cover a lot of, answer kind of a lot more questions. We want people to feel like when they're done with it, that their female hormone symphony, they really understand it. They understand their symptoms around their fertile window, what they look like, the best time to have sex. And then a lot of things that you can do to influence that female hormone symphony, influence the health of the egg, influence the health of sperm, and influence your stress hormones, some other things. So we are a big believer in education. That's why we have educational courses, and we want, Kara and I, we're in our practices and we work with our patients, but we wanted to be able to get a much broader reach to teach people that natural fertility is an amazing approach. Even if you end up doing IVF, any work that you do on your diet, any work that you do to understand your body is going to help you in your IVF journey and into your pregnancy, nursing, and then feeding your family. Like, this is all kind of foundational work. So we're obviously really passionate about it. And we had
to do it. So we've kind of been exactly where you all are. And there's a number of questions that I'm going to send you over to our Facebook group, Cultivate Fertility. And you can either put them to everyone or private message us, and we can try and give you some help on those, because there's a number of them that are quite detailed that we might not get into in an ovulation.
Okay, so if you asked a more detailed question that we didn't get to here on the webinar, if you go to Cultivate Fertility on Facebook and join our private group, which is the Cultivate Fertility group, I think you ask a couple questions, we ask a couple questions, let you in, and then that is our question answer forum for our special group where they can ask us questions. And on every Friday in that group, Kara and I do Fertility Fridays at 1 p.m. on the West Coast, 4 p.m. on the East Coast, where we're on Facebook Live, and we're just talking about different subjects. Those are recorded and they're in the Facebook feed. And we've done many webinars like this that you can see on our website. If you go to cultivatefertility.com and you go under webinars, that is a list of our recorded webinars, and you can watch. We have a lot of different topics, several on ovulation and food and ovulation, a lot of things like that. And we also have supplements available on our website under supplements. We carry a brand, we've created a brand of supplements that we use a lot in clinical practice and have had a lot of experience. Like this one that I'm holding is called Female Hormone Symphony, and it's specifically to help regulate the cycle. Kara, you said you just used it this week with a patient.
Yeah, just yesterday, I gave it to someone who I've been working with for, let me think about this, for a few months. I've been working with her. And she has very long menstrual cycles. So of course it's been hard to kind of catch her at the right day of her cycle to do her blood work. And she came to me on something else, and I kind of like left her on just to see, until I had a good idea of fixing her diet. She did the detox, and she had one menstrual cycle, which was really great. And so then at the end of that, I put her on the Female Hormone Symphony, because now's the time she prepared with the detox. She's going to actually go into trying to get pregnant this month. So I put her on it. And then once she's pregnant, I'll take her off. But I think it's going to make it so she doesn't go back into that. She has PCOS. I think it's going to make it so she doesn't go back into that really long cycle situation. And that formula is really, really nice because it also gives you bitter herbs, which helps with digestion and liver function and all kinds of hormone clearance in the body. So I'm just using that as like a really basic regulator, and it's based on a Chinese formula, so I like it.
So, anyway, we've seen women come in on a lot of different products, and we have over the years shaken our head at some of the quality in the market and marketplace for fertility. And we're just trying to bring to you what we get to use with our patients and what we've seen work so well. So you can kind of see our supplement line and follow our courses. But now we have like our ovulation course. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, usually I only use that formula for like 3 to 4 months, and then you're off because it's all regulated. So just to let you know.
But we just are launching this new ovulation course. We're really excited, and it's right now on sale on the website at a much reduced.
Oh, right.
And we're having a sale, a 40% off sale on our diet and our detox programs. So now is a great time to start to work on your fertility diet or do a 30-day pre-pregnancy cleanse, which is an amazing process. It's not a scary, hard cleanse. It's just very supportive and really educates you about different toxins to try to get out of your body and your face products and your body, and use healthy things in your kitchen and buy healthy things at the store, really to just increase your feeling of like being vibrant. And these are all things that you're going to want when you're pregnant and nursing. So it sort of gets you on the path. Anyway.
And for the detox, we just like poured all our knowledge in it. There's a lot of video clips in there. And I think that we rushed through a lot of talking about like the hormone thing or whatever, because we're in medical visits and we're timed. And so we're like, blah, 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 blah. And people can't quite get it all because you need so many visits to cover it. So finally, we had the luxury of creating everything we want to tell you for preparing for pregnancy in one course. And that's the detox course. We were just like, let's get it all here.
It was great. And so we hope that something around Cultivate Fertility can serve you. Follow us on Instagram. Our team member makes beautiful posts and so informative. And on YouTube, we've got a lot of different videos of us teaching our courses. So there's clips from our courses so you can get a sense of what it's like. In our course, we spend a lot of time in the kitchen teaching you how to cook, teaching you how to make really nutrient dense foods, how to make beautiful fertility plates and beautiful fertility bowls. We've got kind of more recipes than you could probably make. And in our detox, you get a beautiful booklet that goes along with it. Anyway, we are just obviously so excited and incredibly passionate. And if you're looking for a place to just starting with the ovulation course is probably the best way, especially since you're interested in ovulation. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're super grateful you were here.
We hope something can help.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Blessings for your, we want you to get the family that you desire. So bye. Have a good night.